Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Chris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 106, featuring Tom O'Connor. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. This is Chris Murray, your host, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today. I want to thank my friends over at PB&J TV. They are one of the sponsors of this podcast, and they want you to know that they have a industry-leading video streaming program and camera system. They are one of the top providers for early childcare providers that provide best-in-class camera systems, and they are 100% compatible with any existing system on the market. Mention me, Chris Murray, and you will receive a free server to integrate into your existing video system, or 10% off their latest HD camera system over at pbandjtv.com. You can check out their website at www.pb, N as in Nancy, J.tv, and schedule a 5-minute no-pressure discovery call to learn more. So definitely a best-in-class video streaming service, and my good friends over at PB&J TV. Thanks so much for sponsoring Childcare Rockstar Radio. So my episode today with Tom O'Connor is a pure delight. Tom is our new Chief Operating Officer and Integrator here at the Childcare Success Company. And he comes to us with decades of background in early learning and after-school program ownership. Tom scaled his after-school company here in the Denver, Colorado Springs area of Colorado. And that is no small feat. If you have 2 locations or 10 locations, you know that 44 locations is quite something. And so Tom brings that depth of expertise to us and our team and all of our clients inside the Childcare Success Academy. And today you get to meet him. He's a great guy. He is 8 years sober. He just celebrated his 8-year anniversary of sobriety. Congratulations, Mr. O'Connor. And we talk about the magical seeds of influence in today's podcast. We talk about Tom's overarching themes in his life, which are connect, educate, and inspire. And that's the core values that he instilled among the children and the families that attended his large after-school program. And also, of course, the teachers and the staff. Connect, educate, and inspire. So I love that. So we dig all into that today. We talk about deal acquisition and deal flow, how to find deals, and how to set yourself up to be a positive mindset-oriented education entrepreneur and attract great deals to you if you would like to expand your empire in this world. So those are some of the themes that you will hear in today's episode. Personally, I am headed to Southwest Colorado today. I'm so excited to take my daughter, Maeve, to camp. She has been doing sleepaway camp. It's a 4-week camp where they go out into the wilderness of Southwest Colorado and Utah and explore with overnight backpacking trips of 2, 3, 4, and 5-day trips. And so this year is the culmination. It's her final year in camp as she's an inbound junior in high school, and she is going to do 26 days with no break outside and do a 26-day backpacking journey, and even solo. So it's kind of outward bound style, and I'm very, very excited for her, and I'm excited for us to take this journey together one more time. Drive over what is known as $1 Million Highway, which is a slightly scary but incredibly beautiful stretch through the mountains between Ouray, Colorado, and Durango, Colorado, with waterfalls and incredible scenery at this time of year. So very excited for that. That's this afternoon. And then a extended weekend, a long weekend vacation coming up for myself and my boo, Charlie. We're going to see some friends down in Dolores, Colorado, which is near Mesa Verde National Park. And we're going to have some fun romantic time in Ouray, which is a gorgeous town. If you haven't gotten a chance to stay in Ouray, there's hot springs and hot springs hotels throughout the small town. And it's just very cool. It's in a box canyon, which means that it's basically surrounded on 3 or 4 sides with, 3 sides. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult to telluride. So that is what I'm up to. And I hope that you over in your neck of the woods are doing amazing things here in June of 2021. The world is opening and most of us are fully vaccinated. And as you know, I strongly recommend that most, if not all of us, do that. So hopefully that's in your comfort zone and you're doing that and living life and enjoying living again. And that has been a theme for myself and for my Academy clients and my team here in 2021 is just getting back to life. So with that, let's dive in and meet Mr. Tom O'Connor here at Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 106. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. This is Chris Murray, and I am here with an amazing guest today, Mr. Tom O'Connor. Tom, how are you?
Fantastic, Chris. How are you?
Fantastic. Thrilled to have you here. Where are you right now?
I am in my home office in Littleton, Colorado.
Wonderful. Just south of downtown Denver?
Yep. 3.5, well, now 4.5 miles. I moved.
Cool.
I moved a year ago.
And we're going to be together in just a few days because we get to go to a Rockies game together, which I'm super excited about, and then go into our quarterly leadership retreat. So for those of you guys that don't know and haven't met Tom, he is our new Chief Operating Officer, COO of the Childcare Success Company, and brings a lot of education and after-school expertise and early learning expertise to the job. So super excited to welcome you to the podcast and have all of our friends and fans get to know you, Tom. Tell us a little bit about your journey. What are some highlights?
Well, I started 30 years ago. I'm now in my 30th year of living in Denver. Grew up in Illinois, went to Illinois State, got a PE degree, and came to Denver. And on a vacation, I was coming out for a couple of weeks, and found the weather and said, man, I'm not going back to Illinois. I'm not going back to the Midwest. Winters here are a little bit less harsh, so it was awesome. But one of my first jobs was doing before and after school programs for the city of Aurora. And loved that, just loved the setup of it because I could play golf in the middle of the day. And so got my start there. Wasn't making much money. $4.87 an hour was our salary back then, or hourly rate. So I went into sales, sold windows and doors, and then sold heavy equipment for John Deere. And I ended up every afternoon going back to the schools and throwing dodgeballs and having fun with my buddies, who were always my best friends that I met doing childcare. And so I was like, we've got to put something together. And an RFP came up at the city of Aurora, and that's how I got back into doing childcare. And so I put my sales skill together with the love of children, and so we started a company in 1998 was my first one. Had that one for 3 years, and then broke up with those guys and started my own in 2003, and built that from 3 the first year we had, and we had as many as 44 in I think that was 2015, and then exited that business in 18.
Cool. So what you said intrigues me with regard to the request for proposal, City of Aurora. I want to dig into that just for folks who are in startup mode. And we did just do the startup challenge, our childcare startup challenge with Chris Murray and friends. We just finished it with 500 of you guys. And Tom was on the challenge teaching as well as helping out the whole week. It was so much fun. And the way you got started was something that we're teaching people to do. And because it makes me think of one of the gals, Margaret, who was in the challenge, because she wants to start an after school program. And she's like, how do I get the RFPs? How do I learn what's needed? How do I get in touch with these cities and these school districts from scratch? So like just the basics of how did you even get on the RFP? Like how did you get on the list?
Well, I actually went out and started looking, and it's weird because you search RFP, and it's actually in the purchasing department of Aurora Public Schools. So we looked all over, couldn't find anything, and then found it in the purchasing department. There's now you can subscribe to and there's a free version. You can subscribe and get RFP sent to you by email. Of course, I'm blanking on the name of it. That website, we can post that
That's
somewhere
okay. Yeah.
in the launch, so folks will remember. But that was it. And then I just started going to other schools. I would knock on doors. I mean, I went out and shook hands, and my sales experience helped me out a ton in that. I wasn't afraid to just go say hi to somebody and ask them who did their before and after program. And we also started in a couple of schools that didn't have programs and or had not so great experiences. And so it was not an easy in. I actually was working out about 6 years ago, and at a 24-hour fitness, and my buddy and I are looking, and I look left, and this guy's name was Sean Cleary, and he was the first principal that ever said yes to me. And I look back at him, and I was like, oh my God, Sean, how are you? And he said, I went 9 times, and the 9th time is when he said yes, because he said, I guess you're just not going to stop coming. And I was like, I'm not. I just think we can bring a ton of value to your school for you. And so we signed up, and we were there for many years and had a great relationship with Sean, and it was cool to see him.
Yeah.
Kind of run into him many years later, but yeah, that's how we got our start.
Cool. And yeah, I don't know if you mentioned that you did then build your business to 44 locations across Denver and Colorado Springs. And did you go north to Fort Collins as well, or did you stop at?
We were up to Loveland.
Okay.
Was as far
Okay.
as we went. Yeah.
Cool. And then you sold it in 2018, right?
So sold in 2018. Yep.
Sweet. So tell us a little bit about your personal life, your home life. What's doing there in Littleton?
I've been married for 20 years, and my wife is an in-home daycare provider now. You might be able to hear some kids running around upstairs at some point during the podcast. So my wife Tara, been married 20 years this year. We have 4 children, 19, soon to be 18, and a graduate of high school on Saturday. Patrick is going to be 18 soon, and then a daughter Sana, who is 17 or 17. She's 14, and then Ben is 12.
She's 14 going on 17.
14 going on a lot older than he's a twin of my wife. That's what we like to say. My boy, you got to have your twin in the household. So yeah, it's awesome. I always say COVID's been a blessing to us. We sent our oldest son off to college, but he only went for golf season and then came home. And so he's had the time to be able to spend with his brothers and sisters, and they're all their own best friends. It's the coolest thing. So we have a great, fun home environment.
Yeah, that's really, really great. And I know your youngest is rocking the house in baseball.
He is
and hitting home runs right and left.
Blasted. He didn't hit a home run. I mean, he's been playing baseball forever. And whenever he hit it super far, we were on high school fields, which are, the fences are 345 feet or, at minimum. And then when we were on short fields, he would just hit hard line drives. And then all of a sudden 3 weeks ago, it clicked. And yeah, he had 3 home runs, 3 swings last Friday night. And it was boom, boom, boom. And it was like, whoa, and he hits the ball hard. So yeah, it's fantastic to see him thrive, and he loves it. He absolutely loves it. So
nice.
Yeah, one of my favorite pictures is and I don't know if I've ever shown you that. It's him emulating Troy Tulowitzki. I had a guy that was taking photos of us and videos of him when we were at the Rockies game, and it was just phenomenal. The guy said, I've never seen anything like that. So he's had great hand-eye ever since he was a little kid, and it helps to have an older brother that's a sports fanatic, and a pops that's a sports fanatic as well. So
yeah, a pops. Well, I'm excited because, believe it or not, my fun fact, and I'm going to ask you to share, is that I've never been to a Rockies game in person at Coors Field. Right. So you get to be the person that I get to share my first Rockies game with. And I don't know if anybody else from our team is going to be able to join us, but I'm very excited because I'm a Cleveland Indians girl. We grew up with box seats. My family still has them to this day. And I go whenever, but I'm back in Cleveland, I go and I love it because we're literally right behind home plate in the second row. So very spoiled with that, and that's been super fun to take my kids when they were little and do all of that. But how about you? What's your fun fact?
Well, first off, like I said, the Coors Field is the best field in the major leagues. It's awesome, but the product I can't guarantee is going to be any good on Sunday. So we'll have fun. The drinks will be cold.
That's okay. Yeah.
It's going to be
Hot
hot.
dogs. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll eat well, but who knows
Yeah.
what happens with the Rockies. So
Right.
it's a fun fact about me that no one knows. So when I was in college, and I didn't know this either, that I was on Worldwide, but I was in a lake, northern Chicago, went out Labor Day weekend, and somebody from CNN approaches me and starts talking to me about boater safety. And I was like, okay, they were talking about drinking and boating and this, that, and the other. So I, do this 30-second quip with this lady. And I, of course, don't get a text because it's 30 years ago. And about a year later, one of my buddies from high school came home and he was like, dude, I saw you in the middle of the night. I was in Hawaii and you were on CNN. And I was like, he's like, we were sitting there with like 50 guys and he was in the military. And he's like, that's one of my best friends from high school. So I'm a celebrity worldwide.
That's awesome. That's super fun. So as the new COO of the Child Care Success Company, what are some of the things that you're most excited about? And what is really like driving you right now? What are you passionate on fire about?
Well, the number one thing is coming into a team that is so just loving and the culture is great. And, it was easy to come in. Right. And people have made it easy. You got wonderful people that are extremely focused on helping others. And when you have a team environment that you walk into and you don't have to fix everything, just tweak some things.
Mm-hmm.
It's such an easy thing to do. So that of course has me fired up. But the biggest thing that fires me up is our goal of we just got our Grant Cardone training, and he says nothing more than 10x. So or nothing less than 10x. So I think that focusing on a big goal like that, and it really comes down to the impact that we can have on families, business owners, and most importantly, children.
Yeah. So we're on a journey to 10x the impact that we have on the world, and that is super exciting, and that drives me as well, for sure. So I get up every day fired up, and you have really made it a joy to do the work because it's just fun. I think we're having a lot of fun together. We've only been working together for about 75 days ish, and so it's been an amazing quarter. And like you, I also came from the Midwest, and I traded 66 days of sun for 299 days of sun. So I flipped the script. I went from that 365, basically flipped it to get 300 days of sunshine here in Colorado. So don't tell anyone. If you guys are listening to this podcast, don't move to Colorado because we were already like bursting at the seams, LOL. But Denver's like on fire.
Yeah, there's no, you can't get to Denver anymore in less than 45 minutes from north to south. And it's like an 8-mile drive. It's like
Chicago. The traffic is horrible, people. So don't move here.
Yeah, do not. And it's been, nasty and rainy for the last, 10 days anyway. So
yeah. Well, I'm up in Carbondale, Glenwood, and the traffic is wonderful, but we don't have a city. So there's pros and cons. But what I do love is coming down to Denver and hanging out with you and getting our city fix. And I apologize for the background noise. I've got tree trimmers here today, and they're occasionally putting trees in the chipper. So you're going to hear that in the background. It is what it is. So let's talk about leadership lessons. Biggest leadership lessons after or as you scaled your after school business to 40 plus locations. What were some of the big takeaways that you learned about leadership?
Well, one of the first things I learned was don't talk at and try and get on the same level as. So rather than, just kind of meeting people where they are, trying to figure out what their why is. We come in, I always, think that when people come in, they want to work with kids and this thing, it's like, well, they're going to be phenomenal. Well, why do they want to work with kids? A lot of people are like, oh, well, yeah, I had a good experience with a care provider when I was a kid. Maybe somebody they know, maybe their grandma, their aunt, somebody owns a center, and they're like, oh, it's great and it's easy, right? And so it's like, well, maybe it's not so easy sometimes. So it's really bringing people in, and I always said when I hired somebody, they became a part of my family immediately. It was like you are now family because you're working with kids. We're trying to change the world. We're on our way to touching a million lives a day, and so putting that trust in their lap, maybe not putting it in their lap, but letting them know that there was trust already, was a good thing, and that was people were able to, I think, kind of shine a little bit easier. There wasn't so much pressure of saying hi to it. It's like it's just another human being when you have to talk to a parent. It's just another human being when you talk to a kid. And if you remember when somebody yelled at you as a kid, did you like it? And sometimes, so one of the specific things that I always said was, being loud means nothing more than being loud. That's all it means. It doesn't mean you have impact. It could be impactful, but it could be a negative impact. So it was always, I was always trying to teach from the thing that, again, I always did something first. I would want to make sure that I showed people how to do what they did. That bode well. I learned that from my dad on the farm, so that I didn't screw things up. That was probably the biggest reason. But then it was let me show you how to do this. And I actually had a kid tell me when I first started working with kids 30 years ago, and he was kind of a rough around the edges type kid, and I would always yell and say, "Come on, get in the circle, hey, you're not listening to me." And he came over and he said, "You're kind of cool." And I was like, "Oh, well, I appreciate that, coming from you." But he said, "You yell too much." And he's like, "Can't you just tell?" He's like, "People aren't listening to you because you yell." And I was like, "Huh." And I was like, "Okay." And I stopped yelling. And I learned, I would just go lay down in the middle of the gym in the circle and say, the big circle in the middle of the gym. And I would just lay down and start counting to 10. And then people would just kind of start looking and they'd come sit down. And I was like, so I got taught a
I
leadership.
love that.
Yeah, I got taught a leadership lesson by a young kid. And so those types of things are really getting on the level of other people and asking them, and I say, when you're talking to a kid, you should probably get down on one knee,
Yeah,
so
always.
you're not imposing to them. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we definitely teach that when you're getting to know kids and when they come into your school for the first time, for sure. Getting on knees and getting used to crouching down. So I love that. Your connection to other human beings is really what you're talking about, and building trust through connection, and being goofy. Like you're not afraid to be goofy and do silly stuff and lay on the middle of the gym floor. And it's really, really good. I love it. Let's talk about, you mentioned earlier when we were talking about RFP and finding deals. And then I know that you're working in partnership with people throughout Denver to find deals in preschools that are for sale right now, because a lot of people are in wanting to sell and a lot of people are in wanting to acquire. So there's a lot of transactions and acquisitions and sales going on right now in the preschool childcare space. So in terms of finding deals, I was thinking we should probably just, give some tips to the listeners if they're in acquisition mode, or just bringing awareness to the topic, because I think people get comfortable in their comfort zone and they don't think to look outside a lot of times. And right now, what's going on in your marketplace, no matter where you live, is most likely a series of transactions that are happening in the childcare space. So how do you find deals, Tom? What are some sites that you go to, or some ways that you find deals?
So the first site that I use and to research is called bizbuysell.com. And you just type in daycare centers and you can find centers. You can filter out where you want to be, how big you want to be, and they'll that'll spit some things out for you. Dealstream.com is another one, and you can get on their list, and they won't bother you, but they send you daily, weekly emails if anything comes up for sale within your parameters. So those are two places you can start just to do research. One of the other things I like to do is just either write a nice letter and say, "Listen, I'm in the childcare business, and I'm looking for another acquisition in your area, looking to acquire maybe one in the next 6 to 12 months, and then do that again. So if you're interested in selling, you can either call me or I'll follow up with you within 7 to 10 days. So a letter works well. And then you have to follow up, of course. But that's a good way to call people. And then the other thing is when you're on the phone, even if they're not in sales mode right now, or within the next year, ask them, hey, have you been in the business a long time? And when they say, I've been in the business 25 years, probably within the next 5 years they're going to be selling. So that's another thing. So if you're not absolutely prepared to acquire something right now, you can write it down, calendar it out, and say, I'm going to just stay in touch, and send them an email every 90 days. Say, hey, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to check in. And you never know what's going to change, because even though the pandemic is it's an anomaly. It's affected everything, most notably the childcare industry. But there's a lot of people that weren't going to retire and now are, or weren't going to sell, or were never going to sell. They were in growth mode, and it's caused them to have to sell. And here's the just another add-on is, when you're going out, when you're negotiating, they're going out of business because something's happening in their life. It really has nothing to do with you. And so you can bring solace to them and really, really solve their pain point by taking all that stress away from them. So it's not, you can go in and you could still get a decent deal and be honest and fair, but you don't have to lowball the offer, because we know things are coming back. There's kids everywhere. There's more demand than supply. Childcaredeserts.org will tell us that. So those are some of the things that I would look at when looking to purchase.
Yeah, those are great tips. Biz Buy Sell and dealstream.com. And that's great advice. The acquisition letter template, like how to elegantly come across to people who might be willing to sell in your market, we offered as a bonus for a program that you and I just launched, which is the launch track of the Childcare Success Academy. And we gave, I actually have 2 letter templates that we gave as bonuses, as well as letter of intent we have for bonuses available in the new launch track. And I'm bringing that up because it's big news that we basically created this whole level for brand new people to the industry, people that don't even own a center yet, or who want to move out of a home daycare environment into a brick and mortar center. And I'm actually teaching a webinar about it, which is the 5 big mistakes that most people make when they look at site selection in their markets of where they're going to acquire. So really digging in, Tom, the one thing that we see that's the big mistake is people just don't put enough time, energy, and research into site selection. And so I'm going to be covering that in this webinar, which actually might have already taken place by the time this podcast airs, but you guys can learn more about that and get access to the recordings at our main site, which is childcaresuccess.com. So I just wanted to mention that, because for people that are actively in acquisition mode or thinking about it, and maybe this will spur you guys to getting excited about it, we have resources, and we now have a whole coaching level. We have a track, we have assets, we have, coaching calls, the whole 9, for people that want to launch their first school. So I'm so excited because we did that with our recent challenge, and we have about 25 people in that track already, which are our founding members. And we're so excited and grateful to work with you guys. So let's pivot now and talk about just marketing, great marketing. When I met you, one of the things that I knew that was a core value of yours was showing up in a way that it grabs people's attention, and that you are a fan of just strong marketing and great sales. So talk a little bit about marketing tips that either you used with your after school program, or just general good marketing things that are kind of like your go-to secret sauce.
Yep. Well, the first 3 things, like it's what our dads taught us. I'm sure your dad taught you this too. When you meet somebody, when you could shake hands, right, instead of fist bumping, it was always look somebody in the eye, be loud and proud with your name, and shake their hand with a firm handshake. Number 2 was always be 10 minutes early. And then number three was always do something that just do something that the other person won't do. And usually that's just showing up, as we know. Um, so those three things were always the foundation. And then it's follow up after that. When you tell somebody you're going to do something, just do it. It's pretty simple. Be kind, be a man, be a person of your word. So when you tell people that you're going to do something, and again, I listen to podcasts all the time as well. And when you can get in the mindset of going into a room and saying, how much value can I add for the other person without adding something, without an absolute ask on my end, because it makes me feel good to do it. And I know there might be something that good comes of it down the road, but you have to be willing to put the work in with no fruit, bearing. They always say there's a Chinese proverb is when's the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago or now. It's one of those two things.
Yeah.
But a bamboo tree takes 20 years to grow. Sometimes they call people success overnight. People are probably like, oh, Chris, wow, she just built this big thing. And it's just like, well, there was a lot of blood, sweat, and, blood, I say, maybe
Yeah.
not, but who knows? But some blood, sweat, and definitely tears along the way.
For
And,
sure.
and there was with me too. And, with building a business is not easier because we're dealing with humans, but if we can, again, get on their level and I say want it more than they do for them, and that's a kind of a ownership, heartfelt, heart-led thing. When you want something more for somebody than you want it themselves, it's one of that's one of my, I say it's a weakness, but I look at it as a strength, because really just trying to bring the best out in people.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Which interestingly, that what you just said is, even though the question was about like marketing and sales, you went back into more of a servant leadership, how to do things for others and really show up every day and show up early and show up in excellence. And so whether you're applying it to managing people or to your marketing, it's showing up. I remember listening, I think it was a Zig Ziglar tape that was talking about, I can guide every kid who's entering the workforce for how to get a raise in 30 to 60 days and how to just be the top performer. And it's show up every single day, go be the first one at work. So
Mhm.
be the early bird, get there a half hour or an hour before anybody else, and get stuff done fast and show up to your boss's office every day and be like, now what can I do? Now what do you have for me to do? This is done. Now what can I do? What can I take off your plate? And if you show up that way at work,
Yeah.
you will get a raise in 30 to 60 days. You will get a promotion. You will have the corner office before you know it. You can then go be an entrepreneur. You can really just write your ticket, and that, if apply that to marketing and enrollment for your school,
Mhm.
do the stuff we teach in the books we've written, the Ultimate Childcare Marketing Guide and the 77 strategies, like just pull the 77 strategies apart and just start doing them.
Right.
And you'll be full, like literally before you know it. So I love that, but it's about people.
Yeah. And what you do in the academy is just paint that picture well for folks, right? It's like a paint by numbers, blank
Yeah.
sheet. And you can do it with markers, you can do it with paint, you can do it with colored pencils, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. So if you come in, when you come into the academy, it's really, it's these things that we talk about. It's the same thing we did when we were starting our businesses. We showed up, we were always there early. We would, I would, one of the things I would do, I would cook hot dogs at back to school nights, and everybody had to walk by. Everybody had to walk by me. And they were like, they're hungry too. And I'm like, I know how to talk to your kids, and then you have to come talk to me.
Yeah.
So it's doing little things that we think we just have to do what we do well, but one or two or three things on the peripheral that we can bring, that we can add value, for our parents, for our kids, and the communities that we live in. And I was on the school board for 4 years, here in where my kids were. I was on PTA for 11 years, my wife and I, running it one way or the other. And volunteered more than, at one point I was volunteering probably more than I was actually working in my business, when I had a great admin team. And
Right.
And it was fun because I could add value outside and inside,
Mm-hmm.
in both places. So
Yeah, I love that. The volunteering, being on boards, being in groups in your community, chamber of commerce, having positions of influence is really what you're talking about. Even if you're cooking the hot dogs for everybody, you're still influencing because they're going, wow, the CEO of this big program is cooking hot dogs. And, like, I'm not going to leave this program. I'm not going to pull my fifth graders out of this program because the guy who's running it is making us hot dogs and we have this tight connection and he's an amazing guy and he's heart-centered and we love him. And so that's all marketing,
Yeah.
guys, because it's basically family retention, client retention is what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
I say my three things are connect, excuse me, connect, educate, and then inspire, and if you can do those three things well and at a high level and a consistent level, your program's going to grow and you're going to
yeah,
stay full, and you'll be able to open up first, on the launch level. I mean, if you just do those little things, I listened to Grant Cardone's, we're entering his training academy, his sales
yeah,
academy, and we're, you're a big business already, but we're trying to get better. And one of the things Grant said and his CEO said was, I only want you to do this 10 minutes a day because I don't want you to get overwhelmed. So it's baby steps. We always say baby steps, then walk, and then run. But you can't run right away. So you just got to take some things and just be intentional with those 10 minutes. Be really intentional with those 10 minutes. And I think it'll set your day up well.
yeah. And some of our folks in the academy are doing morning huddles with their teams every single day. They do that connect, educate, inspire. This is our 10-minute morning huddle. The kids are arriving. Here we go. Here's the things you guys need to know about today. We might have this tour here. Let's go after it. Let's connect. Let's do some, today's theme might be whatever. And, anybody need anything? Okay, go, go, go. And just inspiring the team.
Yeah.
Like every single day, just re-inspiration. Because what happens is that as we're in the classrooms all siloed from each other throughout our day, if stuff happens, it's then taking us off our game. So by having that reconnection every single day, it's just keeping your team with you too. It's amazing for staff retention to do those.
The first place I remember that happening was in Walmart. Say what you want about Walmart, fan or not a fan, but one of the things is, I remember like, why are people screaming and yelling in a big circle in the back of the store right now? And that's what they were doing. That was their morning meeting, and at the end of it, they got pumped up. Yeah,
right.
They just got pumped up, and it's like, now that I don't think it's weird anymore, and it's just like, wow, it does pump me up, and it pumps me up, to be able to do that with people, and so it works, and that's the thing. Take the things that have worked in the past. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. And again, that's why you have it laid out so well for folks. So it's just like I said, get your paintbrush out, start painting the number.
So, what is the biggest challenge that you have faced, and how did you overcome it? And it can be business or personal.
I've got a couple. Business wise was it was actually I didn't know I was a salesperson, right? I fought that whole thing too, and so when I went for my first sales interview, it was actually car sales, and I didn't show up. And then I had one for my windows and doors, the company that I ended up working for, and I didn't show up. And the guy called me and he said, "You sound so nice." He was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't think I could sell." And he's like, "It's not about selling. It's about going out and being you." And I was like, and that was my aha moment. And I went and met the guy, and one of the things he told me was, in every situation, not just sales, not just when you're trying to enroll somebody into your center or talk to a principal about bringing a program into a thing, he's like, they don't know what you're going to say. And I was like, really? I'm like, they don't already have it in their mind? He said, no, they have you out there to solve a problem that they have. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was just a big thing that I had to learn about myself, that I didn't think I was very good at. And I look back and I'm like, I was very entrepreneurial and sold t-shirts in high school, and we always had business things going. And it was like, oh, I guess, and that was just my thing. I wasn't in a learning mode. So that was a hurdle I had to overcome. And that's why every day I try and learn something, 1, 2, 3, or, 1, 2, or 3 things new. So that, because I think we can always get better and stay sharp.
Right.
From a personal side, I got sober. It'll be 8 years in 10 days, and 8 years ago in 10 days. So that was, that was one thing where I'm an entrepreneur and I got to know why, and it was like, I got to know why, I have to be able to control everything in my life. And that was one thing I couldn't control, and I didn't know why. And then I figured out I didn't have to know why. I just couldn't do. And when I learned that, it was another life changing moment for me. And I've applied that. I always say I went through the AA, and they have their 12 steps, and I'm like, you can 12 step anything. I told my kids you could 12 step a math problem the other day.
What did they say?
I can't control alcohol. I can't control a math problem. And I'm like, it's true. You can't. Yeah. One of Tom's weird analogies, but it makes my kids, it makes my kids laugh, and
that's good.
And, keeps it light. That's for sure.
Yeah. So looking back, if you had to do it all over again, is there something you would do differently? And some people, I ask them this question on the podcast, and they're like, well, I'm not one to look back and have regrets or anything like that. So I would say there really isn't anything, but I'm wondering what you would say.
It's kind of that same answer when I've heard you ask this on the podcast before, and I go back and I'm like, I don't want to be cliche and say nothing. But going through everything I have the last 8 years, but even before that, I don't think I'd be where I was if everything didn't happen as is. And so that's why I always say, would there be some things that I'd love to change? Sure. The way I sold my business, I sold the venture capital instead of taking cash. That's one thing I would have absolutely changed. And it would have made my heart feel better. From what happened after the sale. And so, outside of that one thing, I'm like, everything, but again, I always think everything happens as it should. And I can control some of the stuff. I can't control all the stuff. So I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now if everything hadn't happened.
That is true.
Yeah. I'm super grateful and blessed to be right where I'm at.
Yeah. So it's funny because I talked to somebody that we know in common that you actually introduced me to yesterday, Caleb, and he goes, how'd you get connected with Tom? And I'm like, really, truly, I think the universe brought us together. And then I told him the story of when, looking at new coaches and you applied, and I was like, I think God's trying to tell me something here. I think I better listen. Yeah. Because we're both river people and we both are very similar in so many ways. We have a lot of similar DNA. And so it's been a pretty cool experience since, let's see, was that like in September of last year, I think, that you came into our world?
Yeah. Yeah. So, September, right before the summit. Yeah. I got to enjoy the summit, from my home office right here.
Right.
We were not in person last year, but as from the client side rather than the inside, shall we say.
Well, wait until you see the experience that's going to be set up and that we're going to live and breathe for 3 days in Las Vegas in October, because I can't wait. Your mind's going to be so blown because you experienced it as just a virtual event last year. But when you see everybody in the room together and all of the cool stuff that's there and the signage and the different stations and the parties and the experiences and the book signing and the hugs. It's just, it's going to be, I can't wait. I literally cannot wait.
And here's the thing, the amount of value that you brought in that in how well it was put together as a virtual event, it blew my mind. It blew my mind. And then we did the challenge, the next challenge, which I wasn't part of. I was on the client side of that, and which I did get to present a little bit in that one. When I was buying the center that yeah, that's the center we actually bought that I presented on in the challenge. So I'm super excited. And even the in-person event we did it finally in Austin was tremendous, because it's just getting to, again, connect with people. That's my unique ability. Is being able to connect and build relationships. So it's fun.
Love that. I love that you know what it is. And I guess your platform for life: connect, educate, inspire. So that'll be the theme of this podcast episode. Let's leave with any books. You're a big book guy, so I don't know how you have time to read them all, and maybe you listen to them on audio too, because windshield time. But You're a big reader and you're always gifting books. When I first met you, you gave me 3 books that were impactful. And so I know it's probably impossible to pick 2 or 3, but just share with the audience some of the ones that you're loving.
The one, and I got to tell you too, that I did not like books until I was like 25. I mean, I was not a good student. I always just wanted to be outside. I wanted to play sports, and I just wanted to get C's so that I could do so, and just stay out of trouble and have a good time. Right, those are my things. And so I always I'm friends with my 2 English teachers on Facebook, of course, and now we go back and forth about books, and I learned, I guess, the love of reading probably when I was in my late 20s. But the first business book that I wrote, or that I wrote, I wish I would have wrote it, that I read was Think and Grow Rich.
Mm.
And hugely impactful, because I was like, whoa, all this stuff that I've been kind of feeling and thinking I can actually put in place, and it's the roadmap. So that one was hugely impactful. Here's a kind of out of the box one, but the Success Magazine, and just that series, and then the CDs that I got along with those were awesome, because he was always listening to those. The Go Giver series, you can see that one up there, the Go Giver Leader.
Yeah.
There's the Go Giver, but this is what they look like. There's a Go Giver Sales, Go Giver, and then Go Giver Leader, which those phenomenal, and it just stories, but highly impactful. And then the book Spark, which was written in 2008 by Dr. John Rady. Another highlight with them, why it's so impactful, is we really figured out, or he was one of the first ones kind of to bring to the forefront, that movement actually sparks the brain. And so our kids should be moving throughout the day. And so it was, once I figured that out, I thought I was a hero when I got kids that weren't well behaved to behave better, just because I let them run around and then brought them back to class. And when that science came out, it blew my mind. And so we implemented that into our curriculum at Kids Adventures, and because our 3 pillars were movement, nutrition, and mindfulness.
Nice.
So it was, trying to round it out. What Tony Robbins does with adults, we wanted to do with kids.
Right.
And think that's the way schools should be. Schools should be, that's
run.
The curriculum.
Yeah.
Should be run. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's a lot of focus points that we aren't currently giving to kids in the K through 12 industry. So we'll have to come back, Tom, and do how you and I are going to help change the K through 12 industry in a future episode. But we are out of time for this episode. So thank you so much. The books Spark, Go Giver series, the Success Magazine CDs, and of course, the epic and foundational Think and Grow Rich. Love all of that. If people want to connect with you, how can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. It's just search Tom O'Connor. And I guess we can give my email. It's tom@childcaresuccess.com.
Perfect.
And then I'm on Facebook. As some of you might know, last week I was on my personal page during the challenge, so you can go to my personal page and watch that if you haven't watched it on the on the Child Care Success side.
Awesome.
Yeah. So,
great. Tom@childcaresuccess.com. Thank you so much, Mr. Tom O'Connor. We have loved having you here on the podcast today at Child Care Rockstar Radio.
I appreciate you having me, Chris. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. God bless, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.